I've noticed over the last few years is less maybe stigma about mental health overall, but more of a counseling is great if you need it, but I don't need it. I don't need to worry about mental health. And I would challenge that because everybody needs to worry about mental health. Mental health, I think, is really as important as physical health. We are one body, and we know that our mental health oftentimes affects our physical health, and our physical health affects our mental health. They are all equally as important.
Hello and welcome to WebbChat. This is where we explore the stories, the people, and the programs that make the Gardner-Webb University community unique. I am Noel T. Manning II, and today we're shining a light on something that is incredibly important for student life, and that is mental health and wellness. Now, college can be an exciting season of discovery and growth, and it can also bring stress, transition, and challenges. That's where the Gardner-Webb University Counseling Center comes in, and it is located right here on the campus of Gardner-Webb University in the Tucker Student Center. Let me tell you, the Counseling Center offers confidential support. It offers resources and guidance for students that are navigating the academic, emotional, social, or personal challenges. In today's episode of WebbChat, we'll talk with members of the Counseling Center team about the services they provide, the importance of mental health support for students, and how Gardner-Webb is working to create a culture of care and connection across campus. Let's dive in to today's show. So glad you guys could both join us here on WebbChat. Wonderful to see you. I would love for you, before I dive into the deep questions, the questions that are going to really make you have to think, I want you to introduce yourselves and what your roles are at the Counseling Center.
I'm Kim Retherford. I am the very new director of the Counseling Center. I started a whole week before classes started, so I've been getting used to being here, but I've loved every minute of it.
Kim, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And
hi, I'm Megan Peak. I'm a counselor at the Counseling Center here at Gardner-Webb and a proud alum of Gardner-Webb's Master's in Clinical Mental Health Counseling program. I've been here since 2021, so it's been almost 5 years.
Well, do you both want to talk about your journey and what it is that brought you to these particular roles? And then we'll kind of dive into some deeper questions. Does that sound fun?
So fun.
Hi, Kim.
Well, my journey's a little longer than Megan's because I'm a lot older. I actually started out working in the domestic violence and sexual assault field many years ago, back when it was considered the battered women's movement, so long time ago, and then became a substance abuse counselor. And while I was doing that, I decided I really enjoyed counseling, and so I went back and got a second master's degree and my ed specialist in counseling, worked in community mental health for a while, and had my own practice for a while, and saw this I actually saw this advertised back in December, but I was a school-based mental health counselor in District 1 in Spartanburg County in South Carolina, and I knew I wasn't leaving them until the school ended and I got my students graduated. And so I would go back and check it every now and then, and I thought, if it's still there, I'll just pray about it and I'm going to sit on it, and it was still there, and so I applied.
So that was December 24.
Yeah. It was. I don't know when it was originally posted, but I would have seen it sometime in December. So yeah.
Well, we're glad you're here, and thanks for being here, Megan.
So when I was in college, I was definitely the person that jumped around from major to major, and I always knew that I wanted to help people. I just wasn't sure the capacity. So I majored in public relations, communications, and was just talking with some friends, and they were talking about, you give really good advice. Have you thought about counseling? I'm like, what's counseling? And so really benefited from that in my college years. And now I know that counselors don't give advice. That is a myth. But, I think their sentiment was genuine and thus kind of spurred me on to pursuing counseling. And I really wanted to go into collegiate counseling just because during that time for a student's life, there's so much happening. They're learning so much about themselves. It's their first time on their own. And so when I was here for grad school, I interned in the counseling center. And so I worked in private practice for a few years after I graduated. And then when I saw the job open here, I thought, why the heck not? It's kind of a dream job. So like I said, I've been here for almost 5 years and I've enjoyed every second of it.
Well, let's talk about the Counseling Center here at Gardner-Webb. Talk about some of the kinds of support that's offered, and I'll let either one of you jump in on that.
We actually have a lot of programs that we offer right now. Of course, the individual counseling and group counseling. We also offer single session appointments. So if somebody is going through something that they just need to process maybe once or twice, not necessarily ongoing therapy, that is absolutely something we can accommodate. We have a lot of extra programs. Bog is doing a reset and refocus group for student athletes struggling with some alcohol or drug addiction. He also has open hours from 3 to 5 on Tuesdays for students who just maybe have some concerns about their substance use, not sure if they're doing okay. They are more than welcome to just walk in and ask to talk to Bog during those hours. We have a book club that Megan has started. We also do Table Talk Tuesdays. So we are down in Tucker at 2:00 every Tuesday afternoon, just a time for students to check in. How's your week going? How's your semester? We have sometimes a little activity that they can do while they're there. And I will let Megan talk more about the book club because that's a really cool addition.
And before that, tell me about, you mentioned Bog. So Bog's not here. So tell us about Bog. Last name as well.
Bogdan Podgajski.
Yeah,
he's our third counselor.
Megan probably knows him a lot better than I do, so she'd be a better person to talk about it.
So he is our third full-time counselor, and he's also an alum twice from Gardner-Webb for both undergrad and grad school. He's been here with us for a few years now. And so he's working on the substance use counseling that Kim was talking about, and he also helps out with another group called D&D, or if there are those that are not familiar with D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. So that's a different therapeutic group as well. But he's the third one of us. We're missing him here today.
All right, and I'll let you finish up with what you wanted to share beyond that.
So I love books and mental health, obviously. And when we were thinking of different programming for this academic year, or this semester, I should say, just had the idea of, okay, well, I love books, I love mental health. How can we reach students in a different capacity other than just individual counseling sessions? And so I had this idea to start a book club, and I'm co-facilitating it with one of our interns, Stacy Spicer, and it's been really enjoyable. We have a small group. We meet in the library, which is kind of cool. It's cozy. And it's just a space for us to talk about a book that has mental health related topics in it. And there's been a lot of vulnerability, and it's been really cool to see that happen.
Wow. And so when you develop these new programs, things that you've never tried before, what is it that sparks those ideas, and when do you know that it's actually getting some ground?
Definitely participation, or attendance, I should say.
Right.
In the past or historically, groups, we've always had a little bit of difficulty getting people on board with groups. And we're not really sure why. So if there's students listening to this podcast and they are having some ideas as to why therapeutic groups may not be getting off the ground, we would love to hear from you all. But we wanted to, I think, incorporate things that we all enjoy to, a certain degree. There's a few interns that are working on art expressions right now. And so all of the art supplies are provided. Students just get to sign up, and it's a space to be creative and cultivate discussion. So we kind of look at our different passions that coincide with mental health, and we've made it a therapeutic group or an event of some sort. And Table Talk Tuesday, that was something that I had inspired me from my undergrad years of just seeing an informal table of people coming and talking to people a little bit older than them. And so though it's different with counselors, we just wanted to have an informal space where people can talk to counselors, where it's not just up on the third floor of Tucker, like what's going to happen when I'm in that room. But it's just, hey, come, what do we have? Apples, candy, chips. Yeah. And so it's just a space to, come and hang out. And if you want to talk, great. If you just want some candy, that's cool too.
Well, that's never a bad thing to have some candy and some chips and apples.
And apples. Got to balance it out.
So eligibility. We've talked a little bit about that, but if there are current students, prospective students, parents, families that are listening, how does the eligibility of work of who can participate and come to the events, but also to the counseling center itself?
If you are a student at Gardner-Webb, you are eligible for services. That is, we can only work with students, but graduate students, undergrad, part-time commuter students, we can do as long as people are in the state of North Carolina. We can do online. If you are, I've got a couple clients that see that attend classes on the Charlotte campus, so they just see me online. for counseling.
Wow.
So.
Well, so traditional undergrads, graduates, online students,
Mhm.
doesn't matter as long as
Right.
you're connected. That's wonderful. So if there are students who fit the criteria, how do they find you? I know you said third floor Tucker,
Yes.
but what's the best way to reach out and contact you?
They can absolutely call. Also, if you are on our webpage, so on the website, if you go to Student Life, you'll find the Counseling Center. There is all of our phone numbers and addresses are on our webpage, but on the right-hand side, there's a little link that you can click on that says request an appointment, and it will just send me an email, and I will email them back and say, do you have a daytime preference? And we'll get them scheduled.
Wonderful. Let's talk about the importance of having a counseling center on a college campus. Why is this so important to the overall student experience?
I think especially in this area because it's a really small town and there aren't a lot of resources and we are free. And
Yes.
and that makes a big difference for students, just being able to have somebody that they can come talk to. And I know there's been some students that maybe for medical stuff are covered by their parents' insurance, but they might not want everybody to know that I had to go talk to a counselor.
Wow.
So as long as you are 18 or over, it's completely confidential. We don't bill your insurance. We don't tell anybody. You just get to come and do whatever you need to do in counseling.
Yeah, Megan, anything else you want to add to that?
Yes, just having a space where you can confidentially talk to somebody. And, there's some caveats to that, which we could always go into later, but just having the space where someone can open up on their home base of campus and that third-party perspective that sees them maybe once a week, but isn't in their group of friends or in their classes. We get their objective experience and we hear what they hear. And I think that can be really validating for anybody, whether on a college campus or not, just to have somebody on their team, on their side, again, in this season of life where they're learning more about themselves and the world and so on. It's nice to have that person that they can look forward to confiding in and edifying them and empowering them as well.
Dialogue about mental health has really changed a lot in the past few years. What are some of the myths and the stigmas that are still out there that you often hear about counseling centers? And what would you like students and families to understand instead of those myths and stigmas?
One of the things that I've noticed over the last few years is less maybe stigma about mental health overall, but more of a, counseling is great if you need it, but I don't need it. I don't need to worry about mental health. And I would challenge that because everybody needs to worry about mental health. Mental health, I think, is really as important as physical health. We are one body, and we know that our mental health oftentimes it affects our physical health, and our physical health affects our mental health. They are all equally as important. So that would be a little like saying, I never need to go to the doctor. And, I think that treating that holistic perspective of taking care of our mental health is really important.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Kim. I think a lot of people, or at least I've had some people that I've worked with over the years where it's, I didn't know if I should come in because my thing isn't really bad or it's not super intense or I didn't experience this grave trauma. And it doesn't have to be those things. I mean, it definitely can, but if you just need that person that is someone you can confide in that, is maybe going to have that different perspective. Counseling is for anybody at any time with anything that they might be going through or with whatever that they might be going through. I think another myth is that someone will be judged if they come to counseling. And that's not our job. Our job is not to judge. Our job is to listen and to help in any way that they may ask for it. Or from our therapeutic perspective, maybe we see ways in which we could help them and we provide that insight as well. And so, yeah, it's not about judging. It's about coming in with an empathic understanding and meeting the person with where they're at.
I love that. When you think about college campuses, there's a lot of stress, anxiety that can come along with it. There are life transitions that students are going through. There's academic pressure. There's relationships, all of those things. What are some of the most common reasons that you see students coming to the counseling center? Or is it all the above if I gave you that list?
Yes, everything that you just said. I was like, check.
Exactly. I think a lot of stress over grades and athletic performance, and especially for students here who are here on scholarship, they have to be top notch all the time, and that is an extraordinary amount of pressure.
Right.
So as you are listening to the students, going through those questions, especially when those you mentioned there, um, how do you get them to reframe or rethink where they are in life as it relates to that? And I know every situation is different, but
I think one of the first things we would do is make sure that they have the skills to regulate those emotions, the coping skills, feel better skills. Sometimes even I know with college students, but especially with younger kids, we would talk about our zip up skills, because sometimes you need to just be able to zip up and get through class, and then knowing where their support systems are afterwards.
Right.
So.
Anything else you want to add?
Having that immediate space to, I would say, do what you need to do in order to acknowledge what's going on, but maybe there's a time and a place for that. I'll share that with clients of, there might be this big feeling you're experiencing right now, and you're about to go take a test. I like that. I've not heard that before. The zip up
skills,
zip up skill, where it's like, okay, like I acknowledge that I'm anxious and I have to go take this test. I'm going to perform it to the best of my abilities, and I can deal with this anxiety as we go. Or maybe we've worked on coping skills to help them with that test anxiety. That way they go in feeling a little bit more confident to do so.
You mentioned already some of the different types of programs that are available. Are there other workshops, outreach efforts that the counseling center is involved in throughout the year? Are there annual events that you want to make sure you spotlight and focus on to let students know, hey, be aware of this?
We've had some things fluctuate over the years. We used to do a big 5K for eating disorder awareness. And here more recently, we started doing the Be Well Bulldogs Fest, which we just had our second annual one this past October. And October is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And so we basically just have a ton of different vendors from campus and then also our community partners, and just having some mental health resources that people can come and do, fun little activities, and just a space for people to gain resources on mental health awareness. And then we just had the Southern Smash, which is kind of now more of our eating disorder awareness. And basically students would come and they would decorate these scales, and then we had baseball bats that they would hit it with. And so it's just to help raise awareness for eating disorders, but then also to kind of beat the stigma, hence with the baseball bat. And then May is Mental Health Awareness Month, which it's hard to believe that it's March and almost May. And that starts, the week that we're in final exam. So we're not necessarily going to have a really big event, but we are going to have some sort of study break, exam break skills type of event that our interns are going to put on as well. So just a space where people can come, pop in, have a brain break.
Yeah. And I love that you also mentioned community partners. I think that is something that's valuable for anyone listening to know, that we're not just the Tucker Student Center at Gardner-Webb University. Right. There are connections throughout the community and beyond. You want to talk about the importance of having those partnerships and the value that brings?
You have been here longer than I throw you under the rug here.
So we reach out to various people for our events. So for instance, Mental Health Association of Cleveland County, there's a whole board, but then there's also different volunteer programs that people can be a part of. And whether that be something students want to participate in for extracurricular activity, or because it's, just something that maybe they went through therapy and then they want to help mentor someone who's going through therapy themselves, that's definitely one thing. And then there's also a bunch of private practices that we may have connections with. Just, we are generalist counselors. And so if there's ever anything, what we like to say, past our scope of care, we want to refer out so that students can receive the best treatment possible. So we have different private practices that we know of, but then also local churches, because faith and spirituality, that's a big thing for Gardner-Webb, but that's also a big thing for students and also for our Wheel of Wellness. And so just wanting to nurture that spirit as well. And that is something that I feel like you got me on that one, Noel, when it comes to community partners. But, mental health, like you said, is something that has been talked about more and more, I would say even since COVID.
Yeah.
And so that conversation is everywhere. And so if there's a space in the community where people are having interests, I'm sure mental health is aligning in it in some capacity.
When people hear the term crisis, crisis is so different depending on where you are in your life. And you could be going through a crisis that someone else may think, oh, that's not a crisis. But it is. It is for that person. So for students that are listening, At what point should they feel, or what point do you think they should come and seek some guidance from you if they're going through a crisis and they may not know if it is or isn't?
I think if anyone who believes they just need someone to talk to, it doesn't have to feel like a crisis. If you have a sense that you would just like to be able to sit down and talk to somebody, then absolutely come on up. You have the option of asking to talk to a counselor immediately if you do believe you are in crisis. If you are not in crisis but just want to schedule an appointment, we have a form at the front desk in the counseling suite that you can just fill out and ask for an appointment.
We also have a 24/7 crisis line for mental health emergencies, and that number is conveniently located on the back of everybody's student ID card, and it's also on our website as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're experiencing a mental health emergency, please call that number.
For students that may be hesitant
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, what are some words of encouragement that you can offer them to help calm them and help them to realize that this is something that's could be valuable for them?
There's strength in vulnerability. And that thing that might seem so scary, and that's not to invalidate that it could be for that person's experience, but when it's kept in the dark, it seems a lot scarier. And as soon as you put something into the light, I believe some of that power is gone. And so just having that one person, again, counseling is a great opportunity for that, because we're not going to go tell anybody what someone has just confided with us. And so if someone is brave enough to share with us, that darkness already loses a little bit of its power. And even if it's just us that knows it, that one person, that's someone that knows it. And that's something that I share with people, when we are giving the caveats of like, everything that you say in here is confidential, and then the XYZ of what's not. It's, I would rather you tell me something that's going on, just that you have someone that's stepping into it with you and you're not having to carry it all by yourself.
Love that. Kim, anything else?
I think I would piggyback on that and just remind everybody that we're just people. I have talked to more people over the years that would come in and go, I really didn't know what to expect. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And all that happened was we sat and talked. So,
when you think about the college, was there something else?
Oh, I was just saying, I like that. Yeah, we're just people and we're just talking.
When you think about the college experience, the counseling center is there for students, but it's not just there for students to be able to survive college. It's also there to help them thrive beyond that. Talk about the importance of the foundational aspects of being able to listen, being able to talk, and how that can help students beyond the time when they leave Gardner-Webb.
We do a lot of skill building in counseling, also a lot of that psychoeducation, whether it's coping skills or communication skills or assertiveness skills, interviewing skills sometimes, just being able to have that sort of grounding in being a healthy person emotionally, mentally. And then I think being able to walk out of college knowing that mental health is important and that if you need counseling somewhere along the way in your life, that's completely fine. This is also a really great time to do some healing if you need to.
I heard another counselor say at one point that they'll tell the people that they work with, I'm your practice person, or this is your practice space. So when it comes to relational conflict or tension, okay, how can we do a lot of role playing in counseling as well. How do you talk to this person that you might be having conflict with? So I think definitely the communication skills, advocacy skills, things of that nature, but also identity development and figuring out who a person is. You come from your 17, 18 or more years from home and you're truly discovering who you are. And so having, again, that space where you can ask that existential question of, who am I? What does this all mean? And leaving after 4 years, or, if you're doing the 5 years or however many, or maybe you graduate in 3, but having this space where you're learning how to do life with people, but you're also learning so much more about yourself. Right. When you walk across that stage of, I know who I am, like I know what my purpose is, and I know how to, I know my mark that I'm going to leave on this world and how I can do that effectively.
I love that. As we are getting close to wrapping things up, there may be parents out there, and maybe they're wondering, what can they do to support their students while they're away at college as it relates to their mental health? What are some of the tips you can offer to parents?
A lot of listening. I think there are a lot of times when students need to have access to that primary support person, not necessarily jumping in and needing to fix everything, because I know my kids are both in their 20s, and I know, as they got older, I had to teach myself, like, this is not my job anymore. And that doesn't mean that they don't still need somebody to listen to. I know my 28-year-old still calls me every day, actually, and just wants to talk about her day. And I think that's really what college students need from their primary support people, is a lot of listening.
Anything else, Megan?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for a student or a prospective student that may, not know, do they need support? What are some of the signs for them that may indicate that that it wouldn't be a bad idea for them to talk to somebody?
A lot of worry. Sometimes those physical symptoms, the GI distress, headaches, muscle tension, all of the things that I think most of us recognize. Oh, that feels like stress, or I know that I have a lot of anxiety. Those are absolutely times to just come and to be able to sit in a safe, non-judgmental space and talk. Nightmares can be sometimes, feeling depressed, sleeping more than you usually would, sleeping less than you usually would, change in appetite.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, what do you think?
I was going to say difficulty eating, but then also if you just have any of those questions of, I don't know what to do, I don't know who I can talk to about this in my circle, I need to talk to somebody about it, but I don't know who, those types of questions, we're your people. We're here for you.
Wonderful. Well, I want to give you a chance, anything that we did not get a chance to talk about that you wanted to make sure we covered as it relates to the counseling center, or just any other words of encouragement you wanted to offer. I'll open the floor.
I think I would just encourage students to stop by. Just come in and feel free to, you could say hi, make an appointment, sit down and talk, see what counseling is all about.
I would say check out our social media, GW_counseling. And we have our events posted on there, and sometimes we'll have random stuff pop up there as well, especially if there's an awareness month going on. But yeah, check out the social media. That's where you'll see things like the D&D group or book club, Table Talk Tuesday, just the different groups that we have. And then also, again, like I said earlier, there's strength and vulnerability. And if that first step is walking upstairs, 3rd floor, Tucker Student Center, and filling out one of those forms where it's like, I'd like to make an appointment, you email us, you call us, whatever is easiest for you. Taking that first step might be the hardest thing that you do. And then once you get there and you just start to talk, maybe you'll realize how healing it can be.
Wonderful. Thank you both for being here, Kim, Megan. It's wonderful to see you. I'm glad we could do this and offer this as an opportunity for support for anyone out there listening. And again, you can always reach out to us here at Gardner-Webb University, the Counseling Center. Once again, where do they find it on the website?
Yeah. So if you go to Student Life, then once you click on Student Life, there's another tab for the Counseling Center.
And that's Gardner-Webb.edu. So thank you so much for joining us. And we'd love to have you back on again, maybe as we approach exam time, when there's a whole different type of stress relating to that. So we may bring you back for some of that as well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I think today's dialogue has been incredibly important. I want to thank again each of our guests for spending time talking to us about the Gardner-Webb University Counseling Center, and we appreciate the work that you do every single day to support our students. Anyone out there who may want to know more information about the Counseling Center, or to schedule an appointment, or explore the resources that may be available, you can visit gardner-webb.edu and search for the Counseling Center page. The center is located in the Tucker Student Center, and it offers, again, confidential counseling services to our currently enrolled students as part of the university's commitment to student well-being. I'm Noel T. Manning II. This has been WebbChat. Thank you so much for listening and for spending time with us. And until next time, that's a wrap.